Hello, hello. Okay. So we did the drawing yesterday, and the art fairy didn't come by last night while I was sleeping and make it any better. So I guess we'll have to just deal with the way it is. This crazy drawing. So my plan on these videos is to first remove all inhibitions and just put videos up. You know, too often we don't do what we actually could do because we're waiting for that perfect moment, or we don't share it because we don't think it's perfect. And the one thing that I've learned from being in galleries and things and showing my artwork and paintings is that 99% of the time, what I think is good or bad, other people think the opposite. So many times I've said that a painting would never sell because it just looks terrible or whatever. It's a self-portrait. It's the wrong subject matter. You know, make up anything. Yet it still sells because, well, people are different. You never know. You really never know. So I'm going to stop even worrying about that and just share my art, share my trials, my tribulations, my pain, and what I feel like I want to do as an artist. So that's one thing for these videos is I'm just going to go ahead and share them, regardless of how bad, quote unquote, bad they are with production level. I mean, the sound could be terrible right now. I don't know. But I will look at them and have some kind of thought of it, some kind of idea of what I would like to see in a video. And, you know, I rambled on for 30 minutes for the drawing of this yesterday. I don't think I would even watch that. So what I'm going to do is take some time in this video where I just paint and I focus, and I don't have to feel like I have to fill the air with my voice. So there'll be times when I'm not speaking at all, and as long as it's easy, I think it will be, the editing I'm going to do on the videos is when I'm not talking, I'm just going to speed it up. And when I have something important to say, either about what I'm doing and why I'm doing it, or about just random thoughts, once I have things to say, then I'll say it and I'll stop speeding up the video, and then you can hear it at that point. That way I respect your time, I respect my time. Let's see how it goes, okay? It may not work at all. I'm going to start painting on this. I'm going to stop talking. And I'm going to do it my way, which is much different than anybody else. One thing I'm really trying to teach myself right now, and I think it's good for every painter to know is this idea that your white and your black, your neutral colors, especially white and black, because I think most people don't see it this way, but to see white especially as a color. And why do I say that? Because a lot of artists, and heck, I have for years, just looked at white or black to do one thing, to adjust the value of a color. So its only purpose was to either make things lighter for white or make things darker for black. But honestly, white and black have all three of the aspects, the fundamental aspects of any color, the same as yellow ochre or alizarin crimson. They both have value. White is the lightest value, especially titanium white, the lightest value you can actually get on your palette. And black, the darkest value for the most part on your palette. There are other colors out there that get as dark as black, you know, some umbers, some phthalos, that kind of thing. So they do have value, yes. But the other aspect is saturation. And white and black are the most desaturated colors that you can get. They are on the very center of the color wheel. If you make the color wheels where the intensity of color is on the outside, and as you move in, it either goes to white or black. And anywhere in between is you see the colors, the primary colors getting neutralized. But to understand that each one, not only like white will also lighten a color, but it will also neutralize that color. So if I add white to yellow ochre, it's going to brighten it up, but it's also going to neutralize it a bit as well. So you have to be careful of that. You have to think about it. You have to think, oh, yes, I need to lighten this, but do I need to neutralize it? If yes, then use white. If no, then use your brightest yellow, right? Or any other color that's really bright that will go in the direction that you want. If you keep that in mind, it's, I think, one of the more essential parts of color theory to understand that every color you mix, every new color you add to your mixture is going to do all three things, and that includes white and black. So black is going to neutralize and darken at the same time. If I add it to alizarin crimson, it's going to make it darker, but it's also going to bring it closer to a gray. So always understanding that is really important. The third aspect, let me say we went value, saturation, and now hue. Well, hue is just kind of like what it is in a lot of ways. It's not even based in temperature. So white and black, right, are the hues. Hue would be yellow here, hue would be red there. Specifically alizarin crimson, specifically yellow ochre. Actually, specifically for this black here, it's not really black, it's a Payne's gray, so it's more of a blue than anything, a very dark blue. White is titanium white, so to be specific on that. But whenever you're painting, always think about that. Always think about, you know, what is yellow ochre going to do to my alizarin crimson? It's going to lighten it up. It's going to move it towards yellow. So we got value, lighten it up. Hue, it's going to move it towards yellow. Is it going to desaturate it a little bit? Maybe a little bit. It's going to bring it down some because yellow ochre has a bit of kind of chalkiness to it. So it will desaturate it a little bit. And that's almost true for every paint, because the most intense saturation you get out of any color is going to be right out of the tube And as soon as you mix it with anything else, you automatically desaturate. Unless it's something just as saturated, maybe a cadmium red mixed with a cadmium yellow, right? Or a lemon yellow. Well, even a lemon yellow will desaturate a bit because one is warm, one is cool. Yeah. So always keep that in mind. Every color has those three aspects to it. And any mixture you make will make those adjustments. That's what I'm trying to keep in mind all the time when I'm painting, especially when I'm using white and black. As I mentioned yesterday, I've been sick for a while, and I've been doing a lot of drawing. So if you look at my website, you can see all the drawings I've been doing, a lot of self-portraits while I was sick. And I'm just getting back to painting right now. And oh my gosh, is it a slog? This is looking absolutely terrible. Just absolutely terrible. Right now, I really don't have much faith in where this painting is going. I don't think it's definitely the ugly phase of this painting at the moment. And I'm hoping that I can get it out of the ugly phase at some point. But I was just thinking that, you know, part of the reason why I do art every day, either drawing or painting or whatever, for at least 30 minutes, is because, and you know, I talk about this all the time because it's just so important to me, and I think it could be really important for every artist out there to really think about. If I could give some tools for people to keep creating all the time, that's why I talk about it all the time. But it's just so important to keep painting constantly, just, you know, doing something, not painting, but doing something every day. It really doesn't matter. Painting, drawing, sketching, you know, in a sketchbook, on a piece of notebook paper, on a receipt, whatever you can do every day. Because even being away from this for a couple weeks, I feel like I'm starting over almost, you know, not quite. I mean, but yeah, I feel so rusty, just tremendously rusty right now. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just trying to observe the colors and values, you know, all the aspects of color. I'm trying to see all of that in my image and put it down. But man, is it a slog right now. And what I mean by slog, like difficult, is when every stroke you do, feels like every stroke I do, it's wrong. And I know that I'll have to come back and adjust in some way. Not only that, you know, there's not a clear plan of how you work. That makes things a lot, you know, much more difficult as well. Usually when you work regularly and you're always painting or something, you have a kind of flow that you get into of way of working. Either you start with all of your shadow masses, and you kind of, because you're doing portraits, you know what colors to use or what will look good specifically in this, and you can see the shapes, and you can put those shapes down pretty simply and easily, and you're sure that a majority or at least a lot of the brushstrokes you're putting down, you probably won't have to touch again. But when it's difficult, when things are hard, when it's a slog like it is right now, none of that happens. I feel like everything I put down is going to be redone in some way. I mean, that's fine. It isn't like I have to be like John Singer Sargent and every single stroke I put down has to be absolutely perfect. So if I don't get it right the first time, I need to erase it and do it a second time. I mean, that kind of perfection is beyond me, and I don't even want to attempt it, right? But to the point where I know all of this is just preparatory work for fixes. Like, it just doesn't look that good at all. So again, I think that's why it's so important to do something every day, no matter how small. It's really important to do it every day, because I know if I feel like this just after 3 weeks of only sketching, and that's fine too. I didn't have to paint for those 3 weeks every single day. I mean, I couldn't unless I brought it to my bed, and I wasn't going to do that anyways. But at least I was doing something, right? Getting something out. And I feel like if I did nothing for those 3 weeks, there would be even less to work with. Not only that, here's the analogy that I use for it. My daily art practice is like keeping the train running, keeping it moving on the tracks. Your motivation, your psyche, your psychology is like a train. And to be driven, to be motivated, is that train moving. And when you're really driven and you're really motivated, that train is moving really fast. Like, there's not much that's going to stop it. Any brick walls that get in your way, you're going to go straight through them. Brick walls meaning demotivators, sickness, someone telling you that you don't know what you're doing, or someone that says you don't like your paint, they don't like your painting, lack of knowledge of what to work on next, all these things that can demotivate us and kind of remove us from moving forward. So if you keep the train moving, especially really fast, being super motivated, you just break through all of those barriers, no problem. But excuse me, most of the time, that's really difficult for a lot of us to stay that motivated, to always be moving moving the train as fast as you can. A lot of times we're going to get sick. We're going to, be busy with work, with school, with other things. And we can't spend all the time in the day that we want to spend on our art, our creative act, whatever it is. So we have to just go into almost like maintenance mode. And instead of thinking in a perfectionist way and thinking that you have to do all of this time and effort into your artwork every single day, you can simplify it. You can break it down into simple terms and just say, you know what? I'm going to do 30 minutes of sketching, like just simple sketching. I'm going to put on a timer and just sketch for 30 minutes because I don't want this train to stop, right? I know I'm not motivated right now. I know I'm sick. I know I'm super busy with other things that are important, but art is important too. And I'm going to focus on this minimum. And I'm going to accomplish that, and I'm going to keep accomplishing that, so that when I do have time to focus on artwork like I want to, I don't have to get that train moving again. And you know how it is with locomotives with big trains with 100 cars behind them that is a mile long. To get those things moving, it takes a lot of time and effort. It's like Sisyphus pushing a boulder up a hill. It's even more difficult. But it's a lot easier if the train is already moving, even at half speed or a quarter speed. You already have some motion. You have some emotion. Forgive the pun on that one. And it's easier to get back up to a speed that you want. So even though I'm having a lot of trouble right now liking this or even noticing where it's going to go, I'm just going to try and be happy with the fact that I'm here and I'm pain-free and I'm painting. And that's good. I really like the palette knife for a specific use, and that's scraping off paint. The edges and the texture that you get from a palette knife, you just can't not get from a brush. You have to really just pick up a palette knife and just play around with it. The great thing about oil paint and, painting on gesso or painting on, a raw surface is the paint will soak into whatever you're painting on a little bit. So if I scrape any place, a residue of that paint will stay. So like right here on the bridge of the nose, I can really bear down and just scrape the crap out of that. And I'm not going to pull it down to nothing. The gray gesso underneath isn't going to be the only thing left. I mean, it's going to have that paint on top of it. And especially true, you'll see that if, this is a really flat surface, but if you use like a surface like canvas that has that canvas texture to it, when you scrape off, you'll hit the tops of those edges of that canvas and leave the paint inside the interstices, those little holes within the canvas, the spaces between the weave. A lot of that paint will stay, and it's an even it's also another interesting way to show texture. But I like it because I can put down, well, several reasons why I like doing this. I can put down, the paint all over the canvas, all over my subject, and get an idea. Yes, thank you, Watch. And get an idea of at least values and color placed down in different ways. And then I can come back with the palette knife and scrape it all off. And yet most of what I put is still there. And it's kind of like this wonderful block in with some really cool texture that you can leave within there. I have fingernail or finger smudges all over this iPad that I'm painting from. and they're really affecting the value in the dark places. And as I'm observing that, I'm actually painting the fingerprints, so it lightens the value in places. The other reason why I did the palette knife here is because it was getting too clean. I'm trying to express pain and suffering, and that's not clean. That's not pretty. It's not smooth. It's not perfect brushstrokes. It's ugly. And I think the palette knife, the sharpness of the palette knife, and the idea of just breaking edges and intentionally going against the, what I'm referencing and going for feeling, I think is really important for this piece. That texture is super important. But then so are, the small details that I'm working on now, working into this to bring some kind of natural or realistic approach to what I'm looking at. But it's still going to be subservient to the broader idea of pain, of primal, of energetic, sharp, gnashing teeth. I love these blues, these really dark blues that happen in the shadows sometimes. There's like some reflective light coming from somewhere, I don't know where. And make that crazy blue. So yeah, play with the palette knife when you're painting, and don't be afraid to scrape down the whole painting. You'll be surprised everything that's left. And a lot of times where the painting's not working, where you're really upset with it, just scraping it all off and it shows kind of like an after image will bring you back to like the bigger shapes and the bigger idea of the painting. And it makes it so much easier to kind of work into after that, sometimes. So have fun with that. Don't be afraid of it. I just added ivory black. Whoa, I can't talk today. I just added ivory black to my palette down here. And this is an ivory black from Gamblin. All the other colors, Payne's Gray, Alizarin Crimson, Yellow Ochre, and Titanium White. Oh, actually, Titanium White is Gamblin as well, but these three are all from M. Graham. It's important, I think, to work with colors for a while, to understand their properties. And so my suggestion, for a palette, pick a palette that you think will work for you and then play with it for a long while. I mean, months, I would suggest a limited palette like this for a while so you can really learn those colors. If you have 20 colors on your palette, 90% of the time you'll be not using half of them and just wasting paint. But it's a lot harder to learn all the colors and their intricacies when you have so many. So limited palette makes things a lot easier as far as learning the colors, but a little bit difficult when you're trying to match exact colors within your subject matter. So you have to make some changes. But the reason why I added this ivory black is because in a lot of instances, I don't like it. Actually, I'm starting to move away from Gamblin paints because of the viscosity. They're really thick. They have a lot more body to them. And that could be a good thing in a lot of ways. And actually right now it is a good thing. So if you like that, you know, go for Gamblin, okay? But the reason why I added this ivory black in is because of its working properties. The things that I didn't like about it for a lot of reasons, this thickness, I can see so much glare in it because it really shows the brush strokes a lot of way. Graham is a little bit more fluid and you don't see the brush strokes as much. You don't get as much glare from it because of that. But for this instance, ivory black works here, and I'm probably going to put it up top as well because it's thick, it's a bit heavy-handed. You see the strokes, you see the, I keep on wanting to say the ugliness of it because I'm trying to make it ugly in a lot of ways, but you see that texture and it's kind of overpowering. It's also a lot more opaque than the Payne's Gray that I have from M. Graham. So it works in this instance here for what I'm trying to do with it, or what I'm trying to, let me get this angle better. What I'm trying to do with it. And what that was making me think about is, you know, and anytime you find something you don't like about a material, a brush, a paint, a canvas, a palette, you know, or whatever you're working with, that's also an opportunity to use it in another place where it would work really well. Just because it's quote unquote bad in the situation that you're working in and you don't like it doesn't mean that there's another situation that won't come up where it works really well. But part of that takes, you know, an understanding of the working properties for, you know, that material, like the paint that you're working with. So if I just discounted this ivory black completely and said, I don't like it for this one scenario, so it's never going to work for me ever again, I couldn't have used it in this scenario. Now, I'm not saying to keep all paints on hand all the time, just in case a scenario comes up, but just be aware that any shortcoming you find in a material, or even in yourself, let's get psychological here. Any shortcoming you find in anything is a boon in different situations. So keep that in mind. So here's another example of what I was talking about. This brush here, I'm not sure if you can see it, but it's splayed really bad. It's almost like it's got a ton of fingers to it. I think a lot of people might throw this brush away because it could be useless in a lot of ways, but I like it just for that fact because I can like squish it down and throw some paint around and I don't have to care about it. And right now it's making, at least for this painting, it's making these kind of very scratchy, brushy marks that I'm really liking. I think it's really working for some areas. I'm trying to always kind of think about differences in working the paint in a lot of ways. What do I mean by that? I tend to use the same brush for the whole painting. And Nicholas Uribe, who is just absolutely fantastic. Like, I didn't come up with this. I just learned it from him because he told me. He said, stop using the same brush because you're saying the same things with that brush. It makes one kind of stroke. And every stroke is speaking something. You know, we communicate as painters just like a writer communicates with words, but our words are brushstrokes. And if we want to say something different, we have to have different types of brushstrokes. So it's a language that we're using. And I tend to have this kind of sameness throughout by using the same brush. I don't know, there's these brushes that I really like. They're super cheap brushes, and I'm like, wow, I really like these. And so I continue to use it all the time. But I'm not saying anything different. I'm saying the same throughout. You know, I'm limiting my words. I'm limiting my expression by using the same brush. So I'm forcing myself also to look at the brushes that I have and to, well, experiment in a lot of ways and to try new and different things. To go with bigger, larger brushes. Because this area down here, it's part of the top of my chest, and it's got a shadow cast on it and a little bit of light down there. But it's completely unnecessary. Honestly, thinking back on it, you know, I wanted to keep this hair because I like the hair, how stringy it was. But now I'm thinking probably would have been better to bring the portrait down a bit so I could cut that off and have this larger black weight of a shape down upon me for pain. So, but, you know, can't do that now. This is this painting. So I'm trying to make this area down here go away, or really just kind of fade into the background and not be important. And I think the only way that I can do that is to, well, what I'm thinking right now is to keep the edges soft. So soft edges, stay away from sharpness because that would attract attention. And then keep it very either dark, neutral, very neutral in color, very dark, very soft, but still expressive, still in, you know, saying pain in some way. Like, what do painful brushstrokes look like down here? And it feels to me that they're always sharp. They're always like knives. So this kind of thing, just sharp, 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 sharp. I think the best thing that we can do, the best thing that I can do, is to continually try and step away from the image that I'm painting from and not being so beholden to it. Like, I have to Well, it looks like that in the image, so I must copy it the way it is. And actually, that's what Greg Manches has told me so many, multiple times when I was in the mentorship on Smart School with him. It was all about, don't worry about the photo, right? Do what is right, I think, for the painting. I think that's more important. Well, I know it's more important because an artist 1,000,000 times better than me has said that. So there you go. I like these really big brush strokes, just kind of taking on some area really quickly. Okay, so I've been working for, oh wow, an hour and a half so far today. This painting still has a long way to go. It's nowhere near done. Nowhere near done. Do I like it? I think it's a start. I hope to do this series where I'm trying to depict pain in multiple paintings. So it's a learning experience definitely for this one, but this one needs a lot more work. I'm pretty sure I'll probably spend 2 or 3 more sessions on it to get it to where I want it. But we're going to end this session for today, and I will pick it up the same, or exactly where I left off tomorrow. But before I leave, the one thing that I might leave you with here is a bit more about materials. One thing that I really love is a glass palette. Could be really cheap glass, doesn't have to be tempered glass, doesn't have to be expensive. This is actually from a frame. Oh, I forgot to take a picture. I got to take a picture before I do all that. This piece of glass is from an 8x10 frame that I got from Ross's. Ross's, paid for less. This is not an advertisement. Right? So it was like $5 for the frame, and I just pulled the glass out of it. I put some tape around the edges so I wouldn't cut myself on it. And then I taped it to my drawing board, and I actually got this gray piece of paper behind it like that. The reason why I did it this way, I didn't tape it to it, is because sometimes I might want white, so I could just put a white piece of paper behind it. But it's nice to have gray, so when I work on gray for my painting, my palette's the same, so it's easy to tell, to judge colors, at least at the beginning. Once you get within the painting, the palette color really doesn't matter that much. Although I will say it's easier to see color on a very neutral. Well, white is very neutral too, but neutral not only in hue, but also in saturation. Well, neutral in saturation and in value, basically. So a mid-tone gray really helps you do colors. Oh, and one mistake that I did make with this is don't get plexiglass. Why? Because it's a lot. You can't use a blade to clean it. What's great about this, you just scrape it all down, get most of the paint off, and then paper towel, and there you go. You got this super clean palette ready for you on the next time. And I just leave these paints on there. They take days and days and days to dry when they're in big piles like that. But the mixtures sometimes will dry in a day, depends on what colors you have. So you want to pull those off right away, because tomorrow they'll be a little bit harder to scrape. That kind of thing. Other than that, yeah. Thanks for checking this out. And I'll see you in the next video. Or not see you. Well, I'll talk to you in the next video. Bye-bye.